Hey everyone, it's Lynn Kenny, and I'm so happy that you're here with us to chat a little bit about talking with kids about musical thinking as a foundation to learning. So this week, Rebecca and I have had the pleasure of speaking with school psychologists, counselors, teachers across several states. And they've been reading 70 play activities, beginning to implement the activities, and a few counselors and school psychologists have said, I'm going to use some of the activities and 70 play activities as a little group. Like I'm going to do a group, like a social skills group or an executive function group or even a math group, and I'm going to use some of the foundational concepts. And that got me thinking about the experience that I had playing with a child this week, because many of the children with whom we interact have learning challenges, attention challenges, and when the counselor comes to the classroom and pulls that kid out, sometimes they can feel self-conscious, they can feel embarrassed. We want them to feel excited. When we come to the door, we want them to be like, oh my gosh, Dr. Lynn's here again, I can't wait. That's how we want it to be. So what we do is we tell the children that they are their brain's very best friend. They know their brain best and they know what their brain needs. And we have this little process where we invite them to be cognitive scientists in order to learn the science behind how it is that we learn. And so I was playing math for the first time with one of my executive function students, and I go to the classroom to pick him up, and he was real, happy to come out, didn't know who I was, didn't know what was going on. And we got to where we were playing, and I said, can we just do a little something here? Let's call him Jason. I'll say, Jason, and I was facing him, and I said, Jason, are you cool if we just kind of walk for a second? And I started stepping right, left, and he was mirroring me. And I said, now, what if we just held our steps for a little beat and we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we get on this beat and we're walking, and he's like, what are we doing? Is this school? And for those of you who have read Musical Thinking or 70 Play Activities, you know that we were marching in quarter notes and half notes. And then I said to him, the fun thing about what it is that we're doing here today, Jason, is that we're about to learn how your brain learns best. And I walked him through this method, which I'm now going to describe with the slides, so that you can use it along with the 70 play activities and musical thinking book activities, and that you might even consider, doing this in a full classroom, doing it in an entire auditorium, or doing it as the school psychologists and counselors with whom we chatted this week in little 20-minute sessions in your counseling group. So again, whether it's executive function or math or reading, what we're going to talk about are a lot of the foundational skills that the brain knows best, and so you'll be able to use this hopefully in a lot of different ways. So I wrote these slides as a curriculum for the children. So you can use it as a handout, you can put it up on the board, you could show it on your iPad, you could use some pages, not all the pages. The thing that I would do is that there's a lot of content here, so I would do like one little lesson at a time and really play with whatever that note is, and let the kids really have the experience of feeling tempo, rhythm, and timing. Have them begin to understand patterns within music, movement, and learning. So even though I'm going to go through it all right now, there's 9 of them, I would do, 1, maybe 2 at a time, all right? Okay, so I'm going to come off the webcam so that we can really focus on the slides. All right, so we already said that these kids sometimes are self-conscious and sometimes they're anxious. So we want to partner with them right away, and the way we're going to partner with them, and I've done this a handful of different times, it's like the stories are just so beautiful of how these beautiful kids respond. What we're going to do is we're going to show slide 1, and we're going to say, I want to introduce you to Tinkerbell. She is one of the characters in musical thinking. And Tinkerbell says to the children, and you might say to the kids, well, one of you read this out loud? And it says, think like me. Hey kids, great to meet you. I'm Thinkerbell from Musical Thinking. Students across America need our help. I'm inviting you to join me by becoming cognitive scientists. Together, we're going to do some activities that are going to help us learn better so that you can teach other kids. Then you potentially go on to slide 2. So let's chat a little bit about how we learn. See, learning sometimes can be a bit difficult. We all, learn some stuff that feels easy, other stuff feels hard. What kids who become cognitive scientists and musical thinking, like you, know is that in order to learn, we need to do one simple thing. What could that one thing be? Can you guess? And this slide is designed to generate some conversation, and the children will, they can chat amongst each other, they can chat with you, you can do it one-on-one, as I did with this beautiful math student, and you listen to what they have to say. If you want to learn, what's the one thing you need to do? And many children will say things like, you've got to listen to the teacher, you've got to come to school on time, you've got to do your homework. Some children will say you've got to memorize things. And that takes us to slide 3. There is a simple truth about learning, and children love when they learn what that truth is. And the truth is that to learn, we need to put information into our brains and take it out over and over again. And here you might pause and talk with the children about something that they know well or something that they're good at. And you can say, what is common about something that you do well? What are some of the commonalities when you do something well? Like as an example, if you play the piano well, what helps you to play the piano well? Will you play it very often? You take your lessons, you practice every day. How much do you practice every day? How many weeks have you been playing? And here you're helping them understand that even though they go to school and sometimes they learn a single concept in 5 or 10 minutes, the truth about learning is that for many children, in order to learn something well, you need to do it a lot and often. And this kind of takes them off the hook because sometimes they're like, as an example, these math facts or these phonics or my reading fluency, I don't know, I'm just not getting it. I'm reading my books and I'm studying my flashcards, and we help them understand that learning is really about putting information into your brain with enough quality and frequency that your brain turns it into knowledge. That's the one thing. Now, the interesting thing about putting the information in and taking it out is that, I see a typo on this slide, I'll have to fix that, is that when we put information in our brains to encode and learn it, we need to do it slowly. And what do kids usually do? They usually do it quickly, right? I mean, I want to rush through things that I don't do well. You're just hoping that they'll be over as fast as you can. But if you want to go to school and learn something that you're going to be able to utilize, maybe use in your life, possibly perform on a test with, you want to put that information in your brain slowly. So we show them. We introduce them to the love notes. So Tinkerbell's chatting. I have 2 friends, Quick Rick and Slow Mo, who help us learn more easily. See, we have to slow down to learn. That is kind of the magic secret. So let's meet these 2 notes. Quick Rick is a quarter note. He represents 4 beats per measure. So he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3. And I've explained to you in other videos and in the books that we used to do Quick Rick, which was our quarter note, at 100 beats per minute, but we found over time that it was too fast for the kids. So now Quick Rick is at about 85 beats per minute, and we're really finding even with first and second graders, I did this with a 6-year-old the other day, and with a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, 85 beats per minute was just fine for her. So you don't have to be compulsive and perfect about it. I'm just trying to give you a sense of what the pace is that the kids can really march at or bounce a ball at or clap at. Now slow-mo is the half note. He represents 2 counts in a 4-beat measure. So he sounds like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And slow-mo moves around 50 beats per minute. Now this is where you get to do a fun activity with the children, and you can choose how you wish to do it. I usually do it by either having them spell their names or skip count twos. So since I've already talked about math, now I'm going to talk about spelling. So what you say to the kids is, when our brain takes information in, the process is called encoding. We're taking the information in order to make it knowledge. Information is only information until our brain transforms it into knowledge. And when it's knowledge, it's stored and we can access it, okay? So I say, let's just march our quick Rick here. Let's march our quick Rick. 1, 2, 3, 4. You might start a little slow, the first time you've done it. Now, at this pace, on each beat, do you think you could spell your name for me? And they're like, well, yeah. And I say, okay, so every time we take a step, can you feel that downbeat? Every time we take a step, you're going to say a letter. All right? I'm listening. I'm very interested in hearing how you spell your name. And then she goes, J-A-N-E-T, right? J-A-N-E-T. Perfect. Okay? And then you're like, oh my gosh. So when you know something like your name, like something how to spell your name, then you can retrieve it or recall it from your brain pretty quickly. So Quick Rick is really helpful for us when we are practicing information or studying information for a test. When we have learned it, it is knowledge, and all we need to do is pull it out of our brain in order to practice it. Okay? And if the children can't do spelling, I was just thinking that I had a 5-year-old and I had her name the people in her family. So she was like Grandpa, Grandma, Jesse, Sarah. Perfect. Okay? Then I say, okay, but what if we spell something that's kind of difficult, like the word northern? And they're like, northern? I'm like, yeah, I know. How do we spell northern? Let's try to do that. Let's do our quick Rick. Let's think together. How does it spell? Well, N. So we got N-O-R. And then they're like, I don't know how to spell that. And I say, well, neither do I. I don't know how to spell northern either. But if we were to slow it down, so we were going 1, 2, 3, 4, we would have some time to think it out, right? And if we still didn't do it, so we still didn't know it, I could say a letter, then you could repeat it. Okay, so let me just search in my brain. Northern. Okay, I've got it. So I say N, and you say N, and I say O, and you say O. Okay, so it's going 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're marching, right? And we go N, O, R, T. Okay, and then what they're going to do is they're going to repeat it. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're saying the N on the 1, and they're saying the N on the 3. So it goes N, N, O, O, R, R, T, T, H, H, E, E, R, R, N. Okay, that's an example. Northern's a big word. You could have chosen house. All right, so What we're showing them here is that when we encode new information, we do it slowly. And when we recall information that we're kind of just learning, because let's say that was like a mirroring, right? In Play Math, we call that mirror counting. And I'd use it in spelling, vocabulary, Latin. So you could have them mirroring you, right? And then they're like, well, I kind of get that. A 10 or 11 or 12-year-old might go, I think I've got it. And you're like, okay, well, let's stay with slow-mo and let's retrieve it together. Okay, so we're going to go together. And you guys can do this with me if you wish. So we're going Northern. We got it. All right, so we can encode slowly, we can retrieve slowly when we're learning new information, and we also have the opportunity where we could mirror the information, meaning that an adult or an older child or a child in the class who has the information stored in their memory could alternate with the child so that the child is able to repeat the words. So if it's musical, it's M, M, U, U, S, S. All right? So that is a really cool slide that you could be passing balls around the group. You could have one child writing on the marker board. You could have each child having their own little marker boards. I carry about 6 marker boards in my backpack. They're like $1, the individual ones. And so there are just lots of different things you could do with that. All right, so once we've talked with them just a little bit about how the brain works, that we encode slowly, we retrieve slowly when we're learning new information, but we can retrieve quickly when the information is stored. Now they're scientists. They literally know more about how we learn than most of the adults probably in their school or town. So now is when we'll really have either the whole class or the whole group. We're like, all right, here we go. Now we're really diving into Quick Rick and slow-mo. Let's do this. And these 2 pictures are from the 70 Play Activities book. Megan Garcia drew these by hand. And we say, with your teacher or counselor, parent, whatever adult, older sibling, partner, your school partner, practice how to either step, march, bounce a ball, clap. You've got to choose one. And I almost always start with marching, and then I usually go to bouncing the ball. But like sitting here right now, I'm at my desk, so here I've chosen to either snap or pound with my hands. I will tell you that the literature, as we cite in 70 Play Activities, really does suggest that getting the lower body involved is very bright for a lot of different reasons. The main reason that we understand it as we understand it now is that you activate the corticocerebellar loop because the brain is organized vertically. And if you think about it, your thinking centers rest on your emotion and movement centers. So we like to start from the bottom up, just like the brain was made. Get those kids marching and then layer the cognition on top. So it's C-A-T, C-A-T. Okay, so we're always pretty much layering the cognition over the movement. So first we turn them into scientists. We also, march and move, and right away, as soon as you meet the children, you want to be moving with them to get them thinking so that this is fun for them and so that you're really engaging the whole brain. So now you'll just do some marching exercises, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. You can have them counting. These would be measures. What you're doing here is counting a measure: 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. You could really have them accent. This is what Nacho Aramani does. Nacho has them really accent that one beat, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. You can have them do some of the marching with the verbal cue, the counting, or once they start to get it, you could have them doing it without the counting and just watching each other and really trying to stay on the rhythm with one another. Or you could add some of the little movements in the book, like we've done a knee up or an arm up or a clap or some sort of physical movement that goes with Like once we did a high five, we'd go high five, 2, 3, 4, high five, 2, 3, 4. So you want them really to experience the rhythm. That's Quick Rick. And I always start with Quick Rick, even though he is the second half of the encoding process. I do him because Shay Schwartz taught me a long time ago that walking, well, we all know from the children that we meet that many children with neurodevelopmental uniquenesses don't have really good pace or timing. So marching for them is kind of difficult sometimes, really keeping a beat. But most of them can walk. So we try to build upon the walking by saying, well, let's just walk here. Let's just step. Okay, now let's slow that down a little bit. Very nice. Okay, now let's try to step together. Okay, I can feel the beat. Let me count that. Let's try to count that. Can we count that together? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nice. Let's try that again. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Can we count it together? Let's do it together. 1. So you have this relational experience with them where you begin with walking because most of them can walk, and then you turn it into a little bit of a stepping, and it could become a marching. Sometimes it even becomes a stomping. Probably not this early or you'll lose your group. And then once they've got Quick Rick, and you might spend a week or 2 on Quick Rick, especially if you're in 20-minute sessions, then we go to slow-mo. So we're walking on Quick Rick, and then we say, as we step, let's hold our count for 2 beats. So we're stepping here, 1, 2, 3. Now let's hold that count, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you could have children walk around a whole like gym. You know, a lot of times we teach this in the gym. So you could walk around the gym, and you could exaggerate, like bend your knee down as you're doing your 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Really let them feel it, okay? You could do it with partners where they're facing one another. You can do it in lines. You can do it in serpentines. We want them to feel the difference between quick and slow. Some of the reasons are, of course, in the book because they're really numerous. I mean, the main reason, I guess, as it applies to this little nine card handout, is that we're going to really practice learning either their social skills or their executive function skills or their academic skills. We're going to encode those slowly. We're going to retrieve them slowly, and then we're going to retrieve them quickly when they have them. And that's kind of the little test. I think that's, yeah, a little secret. I think this is this slide. Such a cool, like sometimes the kids they gasp. They're like, oh my gosh, that is so interesting. Or the little math student that I worked with this week said, you know, that makes a lot of sense. You know, like really nobody had chatted with him like this before. It was very sweet. So this is what we say to them on this next slide after we've played a few weeks and we've marched and we've taught them to be cognitive scientists. We say, listen, there is this basic secret about learning. There's the one thing you need to do, the one thing you need to do, and then there's a secret. The secret is that you're your brain's best helper. How cool is that? And if you're not sure if your brain has learned something well yet, there's a little test. It's a little test you can do for yourself. And basically, if you can retrieve the information from your memory, that is, take it back out of your memory in Quick Rick, you know it pretty well. So you're ready to take a test when the information is retrievable at a reasonably quick pace. Now, there are some of you who are saying, but I've got some students who have slow cognitive processing, and that's fine. I would just slow Quick Rick down for them. Find their pace that tells them, I know this. And that's easy to do because you can choose something that they know and say, let's figure it out by marching or passing bean bags or bouncing the ball. Sometimes I'll hold their hands in front of me because I can help them even feel the beat by holding their hands and using my legs and exaggerating my shoulders. Maybe their processing retrieval speed is best at 60 beats per minute-ish. at least they'll have a felt sense of when they know what they know. It's really miraculous. They're like, wow, that never occurred to me. I was never able to evaluate when I was really ready for a test. It seemed like kind of a mystery to me. And then if you still need more time, if you're not recalling the information at a consistent pace that's common to you, then your brain is saying to you, I need more practice. I need to have more experience encoding this more often. So you keep practicing with a little bit of slow-mo. All right, so since Tinkerbell is presenting this whole slideshow to the children, and you're having the conversations with them with or without the slideshow, we just have two other notes that we want them to know about. One is Tinkerbell. So this slide says we have two more notes, and one is Tinkerbell, and that's me. Oh my gosh. So Tinkerbell's a whole note. She represents the first beat in a 4-count measure, and Tinkerbell helps you think things out. That's our sentence. Tinkerbell helps you think things out. So when children wish to take a bit of time to think something out, they rely on Tinkerbell. And there are lots of applications. I've got some stories in the book, kind of variations on true stories with real terrific kids. Essentially, sometimes you need, especially when you're not ready to encode something, you're actually just in the process of kind of trying to even pay attention or understand or listen to a conversation about something. That's when you really want to be slowing down with Tinkerbell, and she's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And we have a little hand sign, and since we have video here, I can show you this hand sign. So with Tinkerbell, we have this little hand sign. Okay, so let's just imagine that you're teaching your class and you have asked a child to answer a question like, what's the capital of the state that we live in? And so you say, Jonathan, what's the capital of Arizona? And he's in 4th or 5th grade, and he knows this somewhere in his brain, and he just looks at you with that startled look. And what you usually do is, to be polite to him, you go on to the next student, right? But we have this sign that we communicate with one another about, and it looks like that. And it says, I want to, please give me a moment. I want to think about this. But you don't even have to ask for the moment. We just know that if I'm the teacher and I ask you a question, hey, Jonathan, what's the capital of Arizona? And you look at me, they always get the startled look, those poor children, because they're like, do I have this? Can I access it? Is it in my storage? Is it in my brain? And if he goes like this, everybody just is silent. Everybody just waits. You might say, it's our pleasure to wait, you know? And then you wait, and maybe he's searching his brain and trying to find it, and then all of a sudden he goes, it's Phoenix. Sometimes that happens. Other times, he's like, I searched my brain and I just can't find it. But in our inclusive environment where we lift one another up and we're kind to one another and we support our brains in learning, that is no challenge. He tried to look for it. That means that we need more slow-mo in order to encode that. No problem. We'll practice that another day. And then he takes his hand and he just releases you. So you don't have to have like this conversation, which is kind of cool. He just is here thinking and then he goes, and that basically in our communication process, there's only 3 different, I'll show you the third one in a second. So you got, I'm going to think this out. I need to think this out. And then you've got, I release you because I can't find it. I don't know where it is. Maybe somebody else can help. So that's an important thing. And so I told you that Tinkerbell helps you think things out. And so as an example, what I do with the cards is I take the cards out of the book. So in the musical thinking book, they're in color. And they're also in the 70 play activities. They're just not in color. So you've got your cards. You take them out. You cut them up. You copy them first, maybe. You laminate them. And then you use them a bunch of different ways. I mean, every kid in your whole class could have them, or if you're doing tutoring or a small group, we then use these cards to communicate. So as an example, if I'm sitting down and I'm doing reading fluency with a child, I might say to them, let's sit down, let's make sure we've got everything we need. Let's get our snack and our pens and our paper and our water. And now let's think for a moment. if we're going to learn something new today, what's the first thing we kind of need to do? And they'll be like, well, I've got to read the landscape. I've got to get the big picture, the whole landscape of everything that I'm going to be learning here. And I say, okay, so that means we'll be taking out our book, we'll be looking it over, we'll be looking at the assignment. And I say, so of all the love notes, which one are we most likely to be using right now? We want to be our brain's best friend. How are we going to assist our brain? And they're like, well, I need to really think this out, so I'm going to use Tinkerbell. And then as they're moving along the process, maybe you get to a little activity they need to do, like read a sentence, and you're like, okay, so we understand the landscape of what we're doing. We've got the big picture of what the assignment is. We know that the first thing we've got to do in sequence is to try to sound out one of the initial sentences. And so let's do that. Let's do that really slowly. Let's just think that out. And it says something like, the dog chased the cat. And you can hear the rhythm already. The dog chased the cat, because you've introduced rhythm and you're speaking the language that the brain understands. The brain has been using rhythm, timing, and tempo since the child's been being created in utero. So he's like, I'm going to think it out. And they said, okay, I'm ready to practice it. And you're like, okay, so what tempo shall we use to practice it? Shall we use quick Rick or shall we use slow-mo? And I'll say, you know what? I think I got this one. I'm going to try it in a little quick Rick. Okay, here we go. The dog chased the cat. Okay. And the truth is, someday I'll try to, it's hard to shoot in schools. There are a lot of regulations. So usually I can only shoot with like individual kids and in the neighborhood and stuff. But I'm working on getting a whole school with one of our wonderful colleagues in a different state. And one thing that I notice is that here we are going, the dog chased the cat. And when the kids are getting the rhythm and they get experience, they add other stuff, and that's the rhythm. So this is the beat. The dog chased the cat. The dog chased the cat. The dog chased the cat. I mean, that's the evolution. That's what they start to do. It's very, very sweet. All right. I've got to show you one more. I've got to show you one more sign here. I know you can see my cursor moving around. I'm moving the control panel. Let's go to this one. All right, so I want to show you this other sign, best rest. Now, there are 4 love notes, right? Tinkerbell, slow-mo, and quick Rick, and then there's best rest. Now, in truth, if you're a musician, this might drive you crazy because the rest sign in music it's not really a note, it's a sign. But when we started talking with the kids about 3 notes and a sign, it wasn't going over very well. So we made best rest. You best rest now. We made best rest one of the 4 love notes, and it's worked out way better. A lot of this evolves with the children. Like I told you earlier, quick Rick was too fast before. So essentially we tell them that best rest is the rest note. Best rest represents a pause in the music or a pause in the movement or an end in the musical sequence. And in real music, there are all sorts of rest signs. We use the quarter note rest sign. And there have been a few times when I've had kids who were like, in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, and they're taking music and they're like, there's no rest note. And I'm like, yeah, that's like a little thing we did to help the younger children. And so can you join with me here? And then they're like, oh yeah, I get it. You got a best rest. And what we explain to them is that, and this is very interesting, all about the storage and retrieval, the storage and consolidation literature that is kind of newer, actually, because now they got fMRI studies to show what your brain's doing while you're consolidating and learning. And we now know that a lot of your consolidating and your learning, your real learning, comes at rest, even at sleep. So we tell them that even though we tend to be throwing a lot of information at children all day long, they do need time to rest. They need moments in between the activities. They need not just brain breaks. I love brain breaks, but they need sometimes a moment of quiet or rest or consolidation. So this is the third sign, because remember we've got Tinkerbell, then we've got You're Released, and then we have Best Rest, and she just goes like this. Some kids go like this, which is fine. And then she just goes like this. And that says, you know what? I've like taken as much as I can into my brain here. I would like to have a moment of calm and peace. I want to consolidate this information. May I have a little breather? And we teach the kids, to show us the best rest card when we've, been putting the content into their brains and they're really like, I need a second here. I've had enough. I want to do my brain a favor and take a little breather. All right, so that is a little overview. I hope it's not too long. I made this because it was so exciting to hear that the school psychologists and, the teachers and the counselors were going to start some kind of using musical thinking in some of their groups. And so, just adapt it any way you need it. Of course, you now know that you lay down the rhythm, tempo, and timing. You talk a little bit about, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a pattern. The brain's used to patterns. Um, use song, use rhyming, use movement. Most of all, have fun, engage with the children. This evolves. Like the musical thinking is not some perfect little all put together package and I give it to you and you just do it exactly like it says. It's really designed for you to be you. And for the kids to be the kids, and it's going to evolve and be different for every child and every class, and that is awesome. That is beautiful. So you can be relaxed as you're doing these groups, kind of go with the flow and see what they're needing. And this is just like a little 9-item slide to help you. All right, so then there's the final slide. You did it. You're a scientist like me. Now, it might have taken a bit of practice, but now you're truly a cognitive scientist. You know more about learning than most of the people in your town. The kids love knowing that. Now you can go get creative. Go out and teach other kids. When children know how to encode and retrieve information with slow-mo and quick Rick, they can learn better. All right. So have a lovely afternoon, everybody. Hope that's a super help, and talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks for caring. Bye.